We're starting the play Antigone by Sophocles here in our Norton. This is the third play in the order of the myth. The order of the myth goes Oedipus, Tyrannus, Oedipus at Colonus, and then Antigone. But as we talked about in class, this is actually the first play that was written by Sophocles. It was written a good 20 years before Oedipus Tyrannus, and that was 20 years before Oedipus at Colonus. So all three plays were spaced out over about a 40-year period. Okay, so here we are. We are still in Thebes. Okay, we're in front of the palace. This is the same palace that Oedipus once ruled in. The two sisters, daughters of Oedipus, Antigone and Ismene, are the ones who begin. Now this opening scene, as we've seen before with tragedies, is the prologue. And it's interesting here that the first voices we hear from are the two female characters. And you'll see a lot in this play about gender roles and clashes between male and female. Okay, so here we start with Antigone, gives the opening lines. Okay, and the question is to Ismene, can you think of any of all the evils that stem from Oedipus that Zeus does not bring to pass for us while we yet live? So what we're talking about here is the feeling that a family has been cursed, right? That there's no pain, no ruin, no shame, and no dishonor that I have seen in our mischiefs, yours and mine. So basically, they've suffered everything that can be suffered. Okay, and they make Antony makes immediate reference to a proclamation by the commander. Okay, a public proclamation. So Ismene responds by making clear, this is the first time we hear this at line 15, that the sisters have lost their two brothers. So of the four children of Oedipus, two of them, the two males, have died. Okay, and Antigone then continues on down below here at 25 to say that Creon has made a decree that one of the brothers will be honored and the other dishonored in burial. And so right away this brings out a taboo that we haven't talked about before. You know, we've talked about cannibalism and kin killing and incest. But this is the taboo against desecration of the dead. And this was also a really significant and important taboo. Another one that separated us from the animals, that the dead were supposed to be offered religious rites. Their bodies were supposed to be respected and either buried or burned, basically not just left for the animals and not just left exposed. Okay, so we learn that Eteocles, one of the sons, will be given lawful rights and he'll have his honor among the dead. But Polynices, the other brother, his unhappy corpse may not be hidden in a grave, may not be mourned in a funeral. It will be unwept, unburied, and it will be left out as a feast for the birds. Okay, and she notices that Creon is going to come here to clarify to the unknowing his proclamation. He takes it seriously. And we also learn that anyone who breaks this decree, this edict, will be killed through public stoning. Okay? So that basically tells us the dilemma that's being faced by the two sisters in the opening of this play. They have two unpalatable options. One is they can leave one of their brothers unburied and let his body be desecrated. The other unpalatable option is that they try to bury him and suffer the penalty of their own deaths. Okay? So Antigone now says at line 42 To her sister, you will show yourself as noble in birth, in your nature, in your birth, excuse me, or you'll show yourself as base. So the idea here is Antigone is, in a sense, presenting a challenge to her sister. We're going to find out, are you noble or base? And what she means by that is that we're going to bury him. Okay? I, Antigone, will not prove false to my brother. So she's going to risk the penalty of death to bury her brother. Okay? And now, Ismene, the first incident where we see this, where Antigone is accused of being headstrong, stubborn, strong-willed. We're going to see it in several different forms in the play, but this is the first accusation of Antigone, that she is too headstrong. But Antigone says here, look, it's not for him to keep me from my own. The bonds of the family supersede the dictates of the state, and we're beginning to see now the clash already between the rights of the family and the rights of the polis. All right. Now, Ismene tries in an extended speech to convince her sister not to do this. She goes through basically a catalog of the sufferings of the family, how their father died, how their mother died, right? How their brothers died on the same day, okay? And now we too, Antigone and Ismene, are the only ones who remained. And we too will have a miserable end if we break this law, okay? And now she comes with a rather explicit statement of gender roles. You ought to realize we are only women, not meant in nature to fight against men, and that we are ruled by those who are stronger to obedience in this and even more painful matters. Okay? So, we see there that the gender roles are explicitly laid out of the roles for women, right? Their nature is not to fight against men. The nature is to be ruled and to be obedient in this matter and even others. Okay, so Ismene concludes by saying here that she's going to yield to the authorities because extravagant action is not sensible. So excessive action. Remember, we've seen now with Oedipus this idea of nothing in excess. All right, Antigone responds, and she's furious with her sister. She says to her, well, I'm not going to urge you now, and even if you wanted to join me, I wouldn't be glad to have you with me. So it's over. Your chance to bury our brother with me is over. And she says, I will bury him. It will be good to die so doing, right? So she's basically saying, like, I'm willing to die for this. I'll lie by his side, loving him as he loved me. And then she says, I'll be a criminal, but a religious one. And right there we see the tension right away between the laws of the state and religious laws, right? She'll be religiously observant and pious because she's burying her brother, but she'll be a criminal in the eyes of the state. So we see that opposition there, okay? And now the sisters continue, okay? And basically it's just a continuation of the same discussion, and Ismene sticks to her position, Antigone sticks to hers. Ismene at 104, 105 tells Antigone, you are in love with what is impossible. And Antigone saying, look, it's not impossible. I can bury him. I'll die for it, but I can bury him. Okay? And now Antigone closes here by saying that she will loathe her sister, and the dead will decide that she should be seen as an enemy, and Antigone will be left alone to do this and to endure the terror on her own. Okay? And she will die nobly. She says, there's no suffering that will be enough to make me die ignobly. So she's going to die honorably doing this. Okay? And Antigone, Ismene concludes by saying, "You are wrong to go. Know this. You are wrong to do this. We are right to love you, but you are wrong to do this." Now, one challenge with this translation is they don't include the stage directions in most cases, so we now have to assume, and you can put this in your book, exit the sisters. And the sisters leave the stage. Usually it's staged where they leave separately to separate sides to kind of symbolize how they're going in different directions. But now the chorus parades in for their initial dance and ode.